Hi everybody, it's Jude. I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how to use Furkot to plan a simple road trip. Once we're logged in from this top screen, simply click on New Trip, and it allows us to put in, if we begin this, we're going to take a little drive from New Orleans to Orlando coming up here. So I'm going to use this to show you how we would plan that route. Within Furkot, you can plan it as a round trip or as a one-way. Tell you, I've had some issues with using the round trip one before in terms of how it spaces out things. So all the trips I plan, I use this one-way trip. I'll give it a little descriptive name, so it's easy to find within your trips later. And then you can click and give it specific dates if you want. This one is going to be for us from Thursday to a Friday. I have 2 days to drive. The time frames are not that important other than it gives you some sense of limiting. If you want to limit the amount of time you're driving, it's a way to do that and estimate the distances on a longer trip. So we try not to drive more than 9 hours in a day ever. Really try to keep those at 8. So 9 to 6 parameters work pretty well for us. And while we do spend most of our time off the interstate, I've found this avoid highways part becomes very difficult to use when you do actually need to get on the interstate for a stretch or want to, plan on being on the interstate for a half an hour or an hour. It becomes almost impossible to route it back on when you've chosen this option. So I simply prefer highways and then use the routing tools to get us where we want to go. So when I click done, it brings me to a new trip where it shows us that general route. And this plan tab is the one I'll say I use most frequently. So I can go here and see that without any other things from that hotel standpoint, it will automatically drop a night's stay for us in the middle here and just say, we'll drive about half one day and half day two. And this is a pretty powerful little tool that's within Furkot because you can click on it and actually go directly to different booking sites. It'll show you nearby lodging where it's automatically set up. So if you're really trying to sketch out a long drive and see different places you want to stay, this can become a really good tool for you to use to plan those times. But for this trip, we actually do have a plan. We're going to stay in Panama City Beach, Florida. So I can click on my search and tell it's where I'm searching for. And this can be as specific as as that name. It can be I can search for the town place or Fairfield Inn, I believe, in Panama City. And it starts to give me different options to see what hotels are around and which ones I might be even using. But I'm going to cancel that and just say, let's just stay in Panama City, Florida. Actually, I'm going to tell it beach because it's a separate part. So once you find a place, it drops this gray flag here for you. If you tell it maybe I want to stop there, if you're doing research and just adding a bunch of points, you can say maybe and it'll leave it as a skipped stop for you. So you'll see those flags, but it's not going to plan your routes around it. What I'm going to do down here, though, instead of taking it and saying, oh, we're going to spend 2.5 hours at this beach here, I'm going to tell it we're going to stay the night here. So once I tell that to save, you'll see then it adjusts my route for the rest of my journey. Shows us getting off the interstate, going down to Panama City Beach, Florida, and then driving the rest of the way to Orlando the next day. So when I go and zoom in, though, what we'd like to do is drive more along the coast for the rest of this trip. So I can do that in 2 different ways. I can click, if I bring my cursor over to my route, I can find a place here and click and drag that route. Or I can simply find other places along the way and either click on it to drop a flag here in Apalachicola, Florida. And so I'm going to tell that one that I want to visit there. And if you see, it adjusts my route now down through Apalachicola. The other thing I can do is I can choose a spot along the way to use as a waypoint as well. So let's say that I knew I wanted to drive through Perry here, for example. I can search for Perry, Florida. Use that, tell it, just leave it as a stopping point, tell it to save. And again, Furkot will go ahead and update my trip plan based on that stopping point. Must not have saved my Apalachicola stop, so I'm going to tell it to visit again. And now it looks like we've got that routed into our plan. So, it seems to keep not saving here for me. So I'm just going to do this the old-fashioned way and type it in. So Apalachicola, Florida, we'll save it. And now here it is within my trip plan. One of the nice things about adding things in here as a distinct place on your trip plan is that Furkot will also automatically estimate your times. So this shows 75 miles, an hour and a half. The next 100 miles, around 2 hours. And then from Perry, around 3 hours from there to Florida, to all the way down to Orlando. Now again, saying if we want to stay off of the highway, I can click my plus and minus buttons here to zoom in or out. I can just click my routes, drag it over here, and it'll keep us off of that interstate throughout this whole stretch, and ultimately cut us over here as it needs to as we get closer to where we're headed. So I hope this has been a good, useful overview for you on how you can use Furkot to plan a road trip. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. So if you're interested in learning more about how we plan some of our trips along the way and roads to get off of the interstate, please like this, subscribe to the channel so you'll get notifications when we share more, and leave us comments. If there's things you'd like to see us cover, we'd love to know all about it. Thanks so much.